Please click on subscribe button to get latest news updates from across the world. US conducts very serious drills to prepare for war with North Korea. The US military is quietly preparing for war with North Korea, as the Pentagon considers building more nuclear warheads. The US military is quietly performing exercises to ready itself for war with North Korea, as the Pentagon considers building more targeted nuclear warheads. 2 military drills last month and 1 in February are designed to ready troops for the possibility of war with the rogue regime, which has made repeated threats to attack the US with its nuclear-capable ballistic missiles, the New York Times reports. While the Trump administration has no desire to go to war with the Hermit Kingdom, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis has ordered his forces to be ready for any possible military action on the Korean peninsula, according to the Times. The scope and timing of the exercises suggest a renewed focus on getting the country's military prepared for what could be on the horizon with North Korea, the newspaper wrote, citing current and former Pentagon officials. The Times detailed 3 military drills in its report. A gunship and chopper exercise in North Carolina in December to simulate moving troops and equipment under live fire. More than 100 soldiers parachuting out of planes at night 2 days later in Nevada to rehearse a foreign invasion. An exercise planned for February when more than 1,000 soldiers will practice setting up centers to deploy forces overseas quickly. In the report, military chiefs said the drills were designed to address worries about the US being unprepared for a more conventional land-based battle, after decades of fighting non-government militias in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. The exercises on home soil complement ongoing joint military exercises between the US and South Korea on the Korean peninsula. House Armed Services Committee Chairman Mac Thornberry told reporters on Tuesday that training efforts for a conflict with North Korea were very serious. The administration is very seriously looking at what would be involved with military options when it comes to North Korea, the Republican congressman said. The military has preparations underway, and hopefully they will not be needed. If you are going to ask men and women to risk their lives on behalf of the nation, we owe them not only the best military equipment but also the best training and preparation that our country can provide them, and I think that's part of what's going on. While the US is considering ways to increase its readiness for ground warfare, a leaked report has revealed a desire on the part of the Trump administration to boost its nuclear arsenal. A draft of the Defense Department's Nuclear Posture Review has revealed that the Pentagon plans to develop a new low-yield nuclear warhead for the Trident missile to be fired from submarines. The idea is that the low-yield weapon, which has a lower explosive force than others in the American arsenal, would provide more flexibility to deal with growing nuclear threats from North Korea, Russia, China, and Iran without sparking all-out nuclear war. This might sound like a weaker weapon, but it's worth nothing that the 15-kiloton bomb dropped on Hiroshima in Japan at the end of World War II was technically a low-yield nuke. The US also wants to add a new nuclear-tipped sea-launched cruise missile to its stockpile. Overall, the draft document argues for increased spending and the increased prominence of nuclear weapons in the US security strategy. While the United States has continued to reduce the number and salience of nuclear weapons, others, including Russia and China, have moved in the opposite direction, the paper states. They have added new types of nuclear capabilities to their arsenals, increased the salience of nuclear forces in their strategies and plans, and engaged in increasingly aggressive behavior, including in our space and cyberspace. North Korea continues its illicit pursuit of nuclear weapons and missile capabilities in direct violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions. While the US is weighing up military options to use against North Korea, it is still focused on diplomatic efforts to stop its nuclear proliferation. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson met with countries that fought on the US side in the Korean War, including Australia, on Tuesday and urged them to increase their support for the maximum pressure campaign against the North. The US has led efforts to impose tough economic sanctions on the rogue regime, which include banning global enterprises from doing business there. However, there is evidence that businesses are continuing to trade and that ships are still making their way to North Korean shores to conduct illegal trade. We must increase the costs of the regime's behavior to the point that North Korea must come to the table for credible negotiations, Mr. Tillerson said at the meeting of 20 nations in Canada. First, we all must insist a full enforcement of UN Security Council sanctions, as this is the letter of the law. We especially urge Russia and China in this matter. Second, we all must work together to improve maritime interdiction operations. We must put an end to illicit ship-to-ship transfers that undermine UN sanctions. And, third, there must be new consequences for the regime whenever new aggression occurs.